Welcome to Impact Sales Live. I'm your host, Joe Beck, founder of the Sales Activist and host of the Impact Sales Podcast. Impact Sales Live was created to shine a spotlight on the best practices and tips that will help you stand out from the crowd in regard to sales. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a coach, or a consultant, or a sales professional selling for a company, you'll get great value and impact from Impact Sales Live. I'll be hosting Impact Sales Live every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So block off your calendar and make sure that you start off your week the right way right here. Impact Sales Live today is sponsored by our premier sponsor, Podcast EZ. Podcast EZ is your go to source for all things podcasting. You just speak, and their team will take care of the rest. We used Podcast EZ to help us create and launch the Impact Sales podcast, and we are thrilled with the results. To learn more about Podcast EZ, just check out the link that I'm going to drop in the chat right now. Here we go. So let's kick things off with a quick explanation about Impact Sales Live. You never know what might happen here or who will be on. Plan on seeing guests sharing sales stories and successes. Most importantly, we'll be making sure that you get a lot of valuable insights and information that you can put into action in your business. So today, we'd like to jump right in and head right into our topic for today, which is how you can crush your sales goals without even selling. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that do a lot of different things. So today we're going to be talking quite a bit about some different strategies and, more importantly, some different alignments that you can create inside your business to create significant sales success and momentum. But the first thing you need to understand as it relates to crushing your sales objectives, your sales goals, is it's not all up to you. See, you may be the one that's initiating things, starting things, directing your business, taking action, and whatnot. But if you're smart, if you're building it the right way, it won't strictly be up to you. You must learn how to master the different elements of selling and the different pieces and components. So the first thing I always tell people that there are two main pieces to sales success, right? You need to master two things. You need to master the science of selling, even if your art component, the other piece, is not very strong. I know there are people here on this live today who probably struggle with sales. They probably um, do certain technical things very, very well, but then struggle with the sales piece. Well, I'm here to tell you, if that's you, this episode is going to be very impactful for you. You're going to get a lot out of it. And more importantly, you're going to be able to take some of these ideas and hopefully breathe some life into your sales effort and kind of move things forward in the right direction. But there are two component pieces to sales success. You need to master the science and you need to master the art. Now, I know everybody out there probably knows somebody who they think is, wow, that person's a great salesperson, or that person can go and sell quite easily. They have an outgoing personality, or they're a strong communicator, or whatever their particular strength is. And then there are other people that you look at that just put up amazing sales results, and you kind of scratch your head wondering, how were they doing that? Like, they're not that outgoing person. They're not a great communicator. You don't necessarily see them as the stereotypical salesperson or person selling. And you kind of wonder, well, how are they able to generate the type of success that they are? Well, I'm going to tell you that the secret is not extremely complicated to understand, but the more than likely scenario is that that person, in addition to being a good person at what they do and understanding, the elements of what they're providing, they probably have gone into that mastering other elements of their business. See, with two elements of your business, the science and the art, if you fall apart on the science, if you don't generate enough prospects, if you don't generate enough opportunities, you could be the world's best salesperson. You could sell better than anybody else, know everything to say, know how to handle every objection, have every rebuttal just waiting to come out of your mouth. But if you don't get enough opportunities, you're not going to achieve the level of success that you're looking for. In fact, you'll probably be chasing success more than anything else. So, today's episode is going to be a lot about talking about elements to improve the science piece so you don't have to put extra pressure on yourself as far as the art piece. See, for every professional, you come into things with your own particular set of skills, things that you're really, really comfortable with, other things that you're not comfortable with. Well, we're going to talk a lot about a number of different elements to create your success. Now, when you talk about the science and the art, it's important that you understand you could be successful only mastering one or the other, as long as the other one doesn't hold you back. But if you really want to be elite, if you really want to just master your sales goals, crush them, you really need to be good at both. But if you're going to have one that you're not as good at, believe it or not, the art piece, the how you do certain things is a little bit secondary to the science. And the reason I'll say that is this. I've seen a lot of successful sales professionals, coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs who put up really big numbers and they aren't great salespeople. And they'll admit that. But they've created systems, they've put things in place on the science side to take that pressure off of themselves. So today we're going to dig into some of that. Let's jump into some of the elements that I'm referring to here. So, the first thing you need to understand about the science piece is everybody comes into an opportunity, a business with a particular plan in mind. And sometimes they don't have all the pieces in place when they get started. You can raise your hand if you're one of those people. You jump right in and you get started, but you don't have a predefined specific plan to address every single element of your business. In fact, I know if I'm going to get 10 coaches, consultants, or entrepreneurs on the phone, I'm willing to bet that most of them, probably 6 or 7 of them, don't have a clearly defined sales plan. Now, they may have a plan, it may have sales components, but is it clearly defined? So let's dig into that because that's a big piece of crushing your goals without selling. So when I say having a clearly defined plan, it needs to be specific. You need to break things down into smaller, manageable elements. See, if you want to really be successful, you need to understand what your ROI is on every single thing that you do, including in the sales process. How many emails do you need to send or how many messages? If you're using a messaging platform, how many calls do you have to make? How many ads do you run if you're running ads? How many networking meetings do you go to if you do active networking? How many discovery calls do you have to do or host or complete? How many proposals do you have to make to actually win business? Is it 2 or 3 to win one client? Is it 5 or 6? Is it 10 or more? I mean, things are different in different industries. And how many of them actually close? What's your closing percentage? So you need to understand the science, all the different component pieces. And I'll tell you, they vary slightly depending upon what industry you're in. But the one thing that I will tell you that's universal as it relates to the science piece of your success, it's this. If you're going to have a big annual sales goal, if you're going to have a significant sales goal for you to achieve or accomplish, the easiest way for you to get off track and not achieve that goal is to not break things down into smaller pieces, to think that you're going to have a chance to make it up later. We see that a lot this time of year when we work with clients, we talk with people for coaching them. Where are they at as it relates to their personal sales objectives for the calendar year? We're past the midway point already. And, if you ask the question, are you at or above 50% of your sales goal already? And the answer most of the time is no. Most of the time they're nowhere near it or they're far behind or whatever. And I'm going to tell you the first piece that they need to correct is they need to really break things down into smaller pieces. Break down your activity elements, the science pieces of your sales effort into smaller, manageable chunks on a daily or a weekly basis, or even a monthly basis if it's easier to manage that way for you. Break it down so you know that if you stay on track day by day, week by week, or month by month, that your likelihood for getting there is much greater. I'll tell you, all the top producers that I've had the great opportunity to work with in a variety of different industries will always do that in some capacity or another. They will always track that, measure that, see where they are year to date against their goals. If you're one of those people that doesn't do that, if you fly by the seat of your pants or you don't really map it out that way, you're holding yourself back as far as your success. You're giving yourself a much harder road to achieve your goals because time goes by no matter what. Sometimes it goes by slowly, sometimes it goes by quickly. And the next thing you know, you can wake up 2/3 of the way through your year and be nowhere within reach of your goals and objectives as far as your sales results. But when I look at the top producers, the people that are out there crushing their sales goals, and this is before we even get to whether they're pushing themselves or whether other things are at work in their behalf, they break it down into smaller pieces. So let's put that aside. Let's write that note down. You may need to break it down into smaller pieces, daily, weekly, or monthly objectives. Now, for you to be successful in selling as well, and I want to just throw this out here at this point because I want to make sure that it's covered. I want to make sure that we remind people of these things. This is not a solo activity. Even if you're a solopreneur, if you're an independent coach or a consultant and you're working for yourself or you're just a solopreneur in your business, believe it or not, you're not alone. You aren't alone in this effort. And if you really want to crush your goals, you need to start thinking that you're not alone. Even if all the pressure lies with you, I will tell you right now, if you're smart about your business, you aren't alone. And let's talk about what that looks like. There are three component pieces, three core elements of success that you need to latch onto and master. And the first is one we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about, but it's something that I'm sure you can imagine where I would start. And that's the element of mindset. You need to come into it with a mindset of success. You need to be focused on what you want to accomplish. You need to keep your wits about you, your head on straight. You need to not get distracted. You need to not go off track. You know, you and only you can truly ultimately control your mindset, but it's the first element of success that you have to have. But we're going to assume that your mindset is right. If your sales mindset is not right, I'm happy to talk to you about it. I'm happy to reset your mindset in any way that I can and kind of move you in the right direction. But today we're going to talk about the two other component pieces of success because that has a lot to do with crushing your sales goals without you having to sell. And the second in that list is what we call the people elements. Okay, whether you're a solopreneur or not, you can leverage and utilize other people in the development of your business. And we're going to talk some more about that throughout this live, but we're going to really dig into the element and the idea of creating alignment towards your sales objectives. Okay, creating alignment, and that is really what's important when it comes to utilizing people in the delivery of your sales success. You know, you have your mindset, which is yours to control, but then you start getting into working with other people. Now, I'm not saying that there are people that are on your team, but I am saying that there are people that are aligned with your success. And we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. And the third piece, which you all probably know and can imagine, is systems. You need to have systems in place. You need to do things consistently the same way over and over again with little variation, little deviation, because you want to get efficient. You want to get more efficient at what you do. You want to be efficient and effective at everything that you do, including sales. And the way you do that is to have a clearly defined sales process or system. In addition to your sales process, you need to have other systems that feed your business and don't take things away. Too many times, independent coaches, consultants, or entrepreneurs don't have systems in place. Now, a system doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be technical. It does need to be clear, easy to follow, and something that is easy to get back on track with, even if you get knocked off track. And you can have that by way of your independent sales process. And then you can have different systems within your business. So we talked about this last week on the live. If you caught it, if you didn't, go back and watch the video as well. There are two main things that impact sales success for coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. Two main elements that will impact your success. And the first is one we're going to talk a little bit more about today, which is a duplicatable and scalable client acquisition system. Now, I mentioned systems being one of those three things. This is not a mindset thing. This is in part a people thing, but it's more so a systems thing. You need to have a duplicatable and scalable client acquisition system. Now, that could come in a lot of different shapes and forms. That could be a system that you utilize somebody else's skill sets for, whether you're working with an agency, whether you're working with a team of somebody else who's driving leads your way, or it could be a system that you have manually created for yourself to replicate success. There isn't a right or wrong, but what there is an important word to keep in mind, and that is the word system. It needs to be the same thing over and over again. It needs to work. It needs to be duplicatable and scalable. it needs to be something that you can scale up easily. So in many cases, if you're working with a team or if you're working with somebody else to support your client acquisition system, that's an easy process. It can be duplicated and scalable by doing more of what you're doing, especially if somebody else is doing it. But if you are putting all that pressure on yourself, on your own shoulders, as it relates to achieving your sales goals and crushing your sales goals, if your system is self generated and manual, it's really difficult to duplicate and scale. The only element that is within your control, if you're doing it all yourself, is your own time. And unfortunately, that's a limitation for everybody. So if your system that you're following is your own time, organically developing and building your business, not that there's anything wrong with it, but keep in mind, it's not something that you'll be able to grow and scale easily because you're going to have to change it at some point. You're going to have to bring somebody else in to do more so you can do less, or you're going to have to hire out to have somebody else do more so you can do less to get some of your time back. It's not scalable if it's your time that's going towards it. um, at some point you're going to have to give back some of your time towards other elements of your business, and when that happens, your client acquisition system can flounder. You've heard me talk about the roller coaster effect, where business goes up and down. A lot of times, especially with a solopreneur, a coach, consultant, or entrepreneur, they struggle with that because they put a lot of their energy in the acquisition phase and it goes great, and they start acquiring clients. Well, then they have to divert some of their own personal time and energy towards the implementation phase of what it is that they do. Great problem to have. But the problem is, if you've removed yourself time wise from the client acquisition system to focus on implementation, well, then your acquisitions start tailing off, your numbers start dropping. It's that roller coaster effect. And then you catch yourself and you go back, and you're going back and forth between the two. And the problem with that is it creates a lot of inconsistency. So you need to have a duplicatable and scalable client acquisition system. We're going to talk about more about that. And you need to have a bulletproof, easy to follow sales process. We talked about that last week, but we're going to reference it again today. There are two elements that you must be laser focused on and dialed in to crush your sales goals. In fact, they must be overachieving. You must overly succeed in both of those categories. Why? Because remember what I said, if you want to crush your sales goals without putting the pressure on yourself to sell too much, without putting pressure on yourself to be this great world-class salesperson, I'll tell you, it's possible, but you got to be dialed in and laser focused on mastering those two elements. Your client acquisition system and your sales process has to be bulletproof. And the reason why that's so critical is you need to maximize the efficiency of the science if the art is challenged in your business. And this is why when working with a client or somebody or a business, I always look at the science piece to determine whether or not there really is a problem. And the reason I say that, not that all of us can't get better in selling, we all can. How we do things, the art can always be improved. There isn't anybody out there who's perfect at that. But the science piece, if that's broken and broken in a big way, it won't matter how strong you are at the art. So if you really want to crush your sales goals and take the pressure off of yourself from selling, master those two pieces. Master your client acquisition system and master your sales process. Your client acquisition system must be generating significantly more than enough of your ideal qualified prospects. So, what does that mean? Well, if you know from your own history or your own success that it requires a certain number of qualified prospects for you to net one client, let's say that number is 10. You've got to get 10 qualified prospects to net down to one qualified client. And that's typical in some industries. You might get 10 qualified prospects that narrow down to 3 legitimate ones that you can propose and try to win their business, and you get 1 out of 3. Okay. If you know that number is 10, to really crush your sales goals, you need to develop a system. You need to have your client acquisition system generating a lot more than 10 so you can over exceed on the net number. Now, that does not take into consideration at all getting better at the art piece of what we're talking about. You can absolutely get better at converting more, closing a higher percentage, turning more of them into clients, upselling or downselling. There's just so many different ways you can go about it. But for today, we're talking about crushing your sales goals without selling. The way you have to do it is you have to master your numbers. You have to master the science. You have to get more than the necessary required prospects that you would typically need. Now, how you go about doing that will depend on a lot of factors. How do you throw gasoline on the fire? Well, it depends on what you have at your disposal. Do you have the budget to do more advertising, or do you have more time to do more prospecting? Do you have time to expand your reach through a lot of different ways to generate more prospects? One thing for sure, though, if you're going um, to be developing people into this prospect pipeline for yourself, your client acquisition system, there's one component piece that you always want to do, and you want to write this down throughout the process. You want to make sure in every step of the process, no matter where they are, if it's a first conversation, a follow up conversation, that you're constantly warming them up through the initial phase of getting to work with you. Whether that's the first time they're engaging you, or the third time, or the 10th time, you're constantly trying to warm them up to draw them close to you. You're constantly trying to bring them back to work with you and to be able to get close to what you're trying to do. And it goes back to what we talked about last week about the sales process. You need to attract people. It's so important that you come up with a way to draw people close into you and nurture them throughout the process. But your client acquisition system should include some other elements. And let's just kind of break through some things. And the reason why this is important is because if you really want to crush your goals without selling, this is the element you need to really master. And it involves a little bit of your time. It involves other people's time. We're going to talk about that. And it involves thinking creatively about your business. So, what should your client acquisition system include? Well, let's start right at the top of the list. There should be some cold prospecting efforts. You should be some people that you are reaching out to that don't necessarily know who you are, what you do, anything about your company or your brand. You're starting to bring some cold prospects into the equation. That should be one of the things that are on the list. Write that down. Cold prospecting efforts. There needs to be some warm prospecting efforts. People that do know who you are, or have engaged with you before, or are familiar with your brand. They're followers. They're in your network. There's somebody you've met before. There's somebody that at least knows who you are. There needs to be an effort geared towards them. There needs to be referral generation going on. And again, this is about building a bulletproof client acquisition system. Bulletproof. We need to click on every cylinder. We need to try to get them all. So we got cold prospecting, we have warm prospecting. Let's start talking about referrals. Are you asking for referrals? Most of the time, people don't, or when they do, they don't do it well. I've covered this before, but it's so true. There are two ways that everybody is compensated. It's in the form of the products or services or offerings that you provide to people, and your other form of compensation is in the form of referrals. So if somebody is working with you and they have a great experience, you need to be asking them for other people that you could help, other people that you could impact in a positive way. Referrals are a big piece of a client acquisition system, a bulletproof one. What else can you do? Well, let's start utilizing, and again, referrals is the bridge that starts getting into this part of the conversation. Let's start utilizing other people a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about affiliates. Now, every business is a little different, but what I will tell you is that businesses that typically grow and thrive, they figure out alternate lines of revenue. They figure out other ways of generating revenue for their business, sometimes utilizing their core products, sometimes adding other products, and you could certainly expand products. But what we're talking about now is putting the ball in the court of other people. And affiliate uh, marketing or affiliate business is a way of doing that. Finding other businesses aligned with your type of business. They don't necessarily do the same things, but they complement what it is that you do, and work on developing mutual affiliate relationships, relationships where their prospects or clients could utilize your services, and you figure out a way of compensating them for those services when they are bought through you, and vice versa on their own services. If it's somebody that you have that isn't a great fit for you, but could be a great fit for that other person, figure out a reciprocal affiliate agreement where you can refer business to them, they can refer business to you, and you're both compensated a portion of that through the relationship. And that's such an important piece because I will tell you right now, if you're sitting there alone by yourself, trying to generate business for yourself as a solopreneur, it doesn't matter if you're a coach, consultant, entrepreneur, however you define yourself, if you're doing it by yourself, it's hard. It's a hard road, right? The easiest way to build momentum and to crush your goals is to start duplicating yourself. But that's not so easy, right? We can't just clone ourselves and get somebody else doing it. Maybe the budget's an issue, maybe there's other factors, but the easiest way of doing it is creating alignment, getting other people to do things that will help further your sales objectives. So bringing in an affiliate would do that. You want to explore potential joint ventures, ways that you can work with other businesses in the delivery of your offerings or their offerings and form an official joint venture, something that you can work side by side with that person to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And that could be so powerful in the development of business, whether you're calling an affiliate relationship, a referral relationship, or a true joint venture. It can be powerful. I want to utilize something here, and I want you to realize that part of the secret to sales success is to think about how you build a better mousetrap, how you come up with a solution to this daunting problem. Especially if you're working by yourself, you're one person trying to figure out how to master sales. You have to get to more people, and you have time working against you. Sometimes budget is working against you. Well, you flip that script by getting other people involved. Affiliates, joint ventures. You need to master how to utilize what I call OPT, which is other people's time. Utilize other people's time. Get other people aligned with what you're doing to create sales success. If you develop great relationships with other professionals that provide complementary services, and you come across people that don't need your service but do need theirs, and they come across people that don't need their service but do need yours, you position yourself in a way to be able to create some significant sales success through relationships. And this is powerful because some of the easiest business to win, right? The easiest business to win is in the form of referrals, affiliates, and or relationships brought from other people. If somebody has already established a great relationship with somebody and they trust what that person gives them, shows them, and shares with them, and that person introduces them to you, it's a powerful place to be. Referrals tend to close at a much higher level than any other form of new business that you're going to generate. So if you get somebody introducing somebody to you using their time, their energy, their network, their database, their resources to bring business to you, it's a powerful game changer for your sales success. It can help you crush your numbers. I've seen people who struggled with individual interaction with people. They just, by their own admission, they were horrible at dealing with people. They weren't really good salespeople. But all of a sudden, their sales numbers took off. Why? They built the right relationships. They created joint ventures. They created affiliate and reciprocal referral agreements with other individuals. If your database of prospects is 1,000 strong, and you connect with somebody who has a database of 100,000 prospects, imagine what that could potentially do to your sales success if you position yourself the right way. If you don't believe that you have something to offer somebody who has $100,000 or 100,000 people in their database, you're wrong. Because I will tell you, in those 100,000 people, there are a ton of people that aren't currently working with that other person, that are looking for some other solutions, perhaps the solutions that you provide the world, the solutions that are part of your service, your product, or your offering. If you can tap into those 100,000 people, I promise you that person that you build the relationship with that has that database will love you, because you know what? That's an additional revenue stream for them. They don't have to support or serve the client. They just have to trust and know that you will, which of course you will. You would never want to damage that relationship. And all of a sudden, they have another revenue stream. They've protected that client to a degree. You know why? Because you've built a relationship with them. You're going to work with them, not against them. See, when people start to master large databases and have a large pool of prospects, they're always wondering what's going to happen with these people if I don't have something else to offer them? Or what if I don't offer them something that somebody else does? And you know what can happen sometimes? Sometimes they lose a large percentage of their client base or their prospect base. Why? Because somebody else comes in that offers something that they don't offer. They get in the door and they start building a relationship with that client. And this has been impacting professional service organizations for many, many years. So many different professionals have become commoditized. Insurance agents, investment advisors. Heck, people can go on their smartphone now and buy insurance and place investment orders. They could do all this stuff right now. So they, these people in these industries have become commoditized, right? Now, it doesn't mean that there's a problem with either one of those industries. It just simply means that you have to think of different ways of attacking the business and going after it. So, building joint ventures, referral agreements, profitable affiliate relationships, and referral relationships is a powerful tool. It can exponentially grow your business tapping into the right resource, the right network. And I want you to go back to that idea of other people's time. If they have a problem and they're worrying about losing clients, and you have a solution because you have a great complementary product and you can solve those clients' needs, that person is going to want to talk to you. And if not, eventually they will. So start building on relationships in that regard. Now, notice we've talked about cold prospecting efforts. We've talked about warm prospecting efforts, people that already know you, referral generation, right? But there's also this whole aspect, which is so, so important, um, to developing a really bulletproof client acquisition system that goes to how you nurture your own clients, how you continue to provide value for your own clients. Client nurturing is a big piece of that as well. Some of the easiest business to win is somebody who already has worked with you, that knows what it's like to work with you, has gotten tremendous value from you. And as a result, that becomes something that is extremely important to their success. Now, I want to just take a minute real quick and just break again, once again, and thank our premier sponsor, Podcast Easy, for all the support that they've given us in the development of the Impact Sales podcast. If you haven't yet caught the Impact Sales podcast, go on to any one of 38 podcasting platforms, without a doubt, where you listen to your current podcast, and just search Impact Sales Podcast. You could also find us online on LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as our YouTube channel with the Sales Activist, which hosts Impact Sales Live, as well as our Impact Sales Podcast, which will be right on our YouTube channel. I'm going to drop Podcast Easy's link in the chat once again. If you are looking to expand your reach, develop your authority, and find your voice in a way that sets you apart from other professionals, I will tell you on a personal level, having your own podcast will do just that. We launched the Impact Sales Podcast months ago. It has already had a dramatic impact on the momentum of our business, and it can do the same for you having your own podcast. Click on the link that I just put in the chat. Reach out to Podcast Easy via that link. Connect with them, and I will tell you, you will put yourself in a position to separate yourself from your competitors in a big way. Don't miss the opportunity to do it. So back on to crushing your sales goals, crushing them without selling. We talked about a duplicatable and scalable client acquisition system, but don't forget, in addition to mastering all of that, you need to also have a sales process that's simple, easy to follow, and bulletproof. And we talked about this last week, but I want to tie it all together as part of overachieving your sales goals, because I will tell you, if you master all of the science component pieces, your client acquisition system is scalable and duplicatable, and you've got all these great prospects coming into the pipeline, but then you don't have a process that clearly manages them through it, you're not going to achieve the level of success that you have. And that's why I said you need to master two things. The first is the client acquisition system. The second is you need to really master your sales process. Now, uh, this is subjective because everybody handles component pieces of this process perhaps differently. Some of it's more in person, some of it's more remote, some of it's more automated, and that's okay. But there needs to be certain component pieces that are included. We covered these last week. I'm going to quickly go over them again. I use a very simple what I call a 5V um, sales process, which is the V stands for vowel. You remember growing up, your five vowels: A, E, I, O, and U, right? Well, that's what the five are as far as the sales process are. The five vowels. A for attract. You need to attract people to you in the development of your sales process. You need to engage them the right way. This is where we start getting into the how, right? But I know people that don't even follow a defined process. It's like hit and miss. It's crazy. They get a lead in and they do things differently each and every time. There isn't a defined process that they follow. So let's get back to it. So you've got A for attract, E for engage. You have I, and this is a big one. I, you want to underline, it's impact. If you're going to spend a lot of time on one element of the sales process, focus on impact. There's a reason why this is called Impact Sales Live and why our podcast is the Impact Sales Podcast, because impact makes a huge difference in the sales process. If your impact phase is weak, your results will be weak. If your impact phase is strong, your results will be much, much stronger than not. I'm going to tell you, it makes a huge difference in your success having a masterful impact phase. And how do you impact people? Well, I'm going to get into it real quick here. You impact people by just asking good questions and letting them explain to you how these things impact them, right? You don't have to be strong in selling. You don't even have to sell if you take the sales cap off for a minute and just ask really powerful questions. If you offer a product or a service that does something, let's say it saves that person time, right? Don't talk about the product. Talk about, so assuming we could save you 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week, Mr. Prospect or Mrs. Prospect, what would you do with that time? And just listen. Listen intently to what they say. Listen to understand what the impact of that time is. Maybe that time will get them back time with their family. Maybe it'll get them time to rest and recuperate during the week. Maybe it'll get them time to take that vacation they haven't been able to take. Let them tell you what it is in their own words. This isn't about salesmanship. This is just about communication. This is just about asking very good questions and having a true servant's heart in how you're approaching your business, trying to solve needs and problems that people have, addressing those needs, solving the problems. You don't have to sell people if you focus on solving problems in a way that has a positive impact. Now, after I for impact is O, and the O stands for offer. We talked about this last week in length, but what your offer is plays a major role in your success. How it is positioned, how it is offered, how you follow up, how you communicate throughout it is powerful. But the reason why the offer stage is not as important as the impact is, I will tell you this: if your impact stage is extremely powerful and immediately following a really good conversation with powerful questions about the impact that your solution will have, if it's immediately followed up with a solution, an offer to solve the problem and give them what they are looking for, talking about what they want, or particularly what they're expanding on when you're talking to them. If your offer is well timed and addresses what those things are and gets them closer or all the way to what they're looking for, it's extremely powerful. But imagine you don't do that. Imagine your impact phase is weak, and as a result, you start then putting an offer out. It doesn't have the same effect. You could have a bulletproof offer, But if that person isn't in the right frame of mind to see it, doesn't matter how powerful your offer is. They're not there yet. You haven't brought them along. So now I know we're talking about crushing our sales goals without selling. And the fact is, you can do it by just simply asking some questions and letting the process work for itself. You're kind of like the traffic cop of the process. That's your role. Keep the process moving along. Stay on point. Don't get off track. Somebody gets in the wrong lane, put them back in the lane that they need to be in. You're a traffic cop. You don't have to sell if all you're doing is just directing. And the reason why that's a powerful thought to hold on to is somewhere in the process for some people, and perhaps some people listening to this live or listening to this recording, there is an emotional roadblock when it comes to asking for the business or asking for somebody to take action or to move forward with whatever it is that you offer. And 9 times out of 10, that roadblock goes away if you're able to bring the prospect to you and ask you, how can I solve this problem? Or how can I do this? How do I address this need? I'd like that to happen. What's the next step? See, emotionally, two different positions. If you don't position with the right impact questions, that conversation, all the pressure lies on you. And that's where selling comes in, right? And I say selling in a way that in this example is perceived as a little negative in case somebody has the concern. It doesn't mean that you can't crush your goals and amplify them when you're a great salesperson. Of course you can. What I'm saying is you can crush your goals without being a good salesperson just by listening to understand and offering something that addresses the need. It's almost a matter of courtesy at that point. And I want you to think about this. Imagine you're having a conversation with somebody and they have a particular problem or a need, and it's somebody that you've gotten to know, and they now are relatively close to you. You've built a little bond or relationship, and they have a problem, and you have the ability of solving the problem. You take the pressure off of yourself looking at it as a sale when you perceive it as solving a problem, and it's almost a courtesy for you in offering it. In fact, some of the top sales producers that I've had the great pleasure of working with over the years had the mindset that shame on me personally, shame on me if I don't offer my help and support when I've brought that person to me, nurtured them, they've talked about what's important and what their need is. Shame on me if I don't offer my help. And that's the exact mindset that I want you to have. You're tying it all together in this process. You're bringing together what their need is with your solution. And it's not about selling it at that point if you've asked the right question. It's about helping them solve their problem or get them what they're looking to accomplish. And the reason why that little nuance is so powerful is for the people that struggle with salesmanship or struggle with the idea of having to sell what it is that they offer, whether it's um, a real struggle or whether it's a subconscious struggle. The easier it becomes in how you look at it, the easier it will translate itself to your sales process. And the idea of it being a courtesy to provide that solution is a powerful one. I have seen people paralyzed in fear of asking for the business, like just, you know, they would freeze up when the time was right to ask them to move forward with the business. And how they overcame that was taking all the pressure off of themselves, just taking the bricks off their shoulders, letting them down and making it all about solving the problem and communicating that with the prospect to the point that the prospect literally says, "What's the next step? How do we proceed? How can you do this for me?" And from then, it's just a matter of helping that person out. Now, I know this is a simplification, but the fact is, in every single sales interaction, it doesn't matter what you offer, it comes down to two parties. And it comes down to the perception of how both parties look at the relationship and what is going to be the next step. See, the you in the sales process is the understanding. How are things left? What's the understanding? Is the understanding that we move forward together? Is the understanding that I help you and help you accomplish what you're looking to accomplish? Or is the understanding something different, that now's not the time, or check with me in 6 months, or I'm 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 not ready, or whatever it is? There has to be an understanding. So AEIOU, the you, the understanding is so powerful because it positions so many other things. It positions what the next steps are. It positions how they feel about where you are. It positions the opportunity to ask for more referrals. It ties it all together. And the reason why I like to focus on this, as far as crushing your sales goals, the best salespeople that I've ever worked with, and this is thousands of people throughout a 30 plus year career, both in the corporate world and in the entrepreneur space, the best top producing people were not the best salespeople. And a lot of times people would say, they struggle to imagine how they could achieve those levels of success. And I'll tell you, it's they went about their business differently. They organized it differently. They planned differently. They mastered utilizing other people's time. They did so many other things well, that what happened over time, and this is what I want you to kind of take away from today, that crushing of the sales goal thing may only be by 10% or 20% in the first year. But imagine what happens when you start achieving your goals and setting bigger goals for yourself, and then you achieve them and you become better and more efficient at your client acquisition system, and your sales process gets dialed in and it's just bulletproof, laser focused on what needs to be done, what the next steps are. And all of a sudden you get more and more opportunities to talk to people and interact with people and solve more problems. Your confidence rises, your results rise, and believe it or not, almost accidentally, you seem to become a better salesperson. Maybe you are, or maybe you aren't. Maybe all the people that I've worked with over their careers haven't gotten better. But I know what has gotten better. They've managed their business better. They ran the business element of sales success better. And even if they never improved their personal selling skills, if they got better at the mastery of the systems, their results continue to improve. So whether you are a great salesperson or an average salesperson, it doesn't really matter if you can master your systems, create a client acquisition system that brings you great qualified prospects, and you work through different things in your sales process. Now, I know this is a lot of stuff in a very condensed format, and this is a very complicated process when you start to dissect it step by step. So, if I can assist anybody here in the development of their own personal sales process and exactly how it should be handled, reach out to me. Connect with me on social media. You can text the word sales to the number 321-421-5213. You can schedule a complimentary consultation with me to talk about sales in your business and exactly how we can dial things in for you so you can crush your sales goals, whether you are or aren't a great salesperson. But what I tell you will happen over time, gradually, even accidentally, you will become a better salesperson. It will happen naturally and organically the more you master your process. But to really crush your goals, you need to focus on making sure that you master your client acquisition system and that your sales process, which is separate because your acquisition of the prospect is a whole different element where you get your leads from, right? How you get them. That's a different phase. That's the initial nurturing phase. What I'm talking about is once they're in your sales process officially, and once you're starting to engage them, what does that look like? If you can master those elements and then factor in and build other things around your business, such as referral generation, affiliate marketing, joint ventures, and utilizing other people's time, without question, you'll crush your sales results. Imagine if you're the sole voice for your business or your brand or your sales effort, and only your voice is the voice that's heard. It's hard to compound the effect of your voice, right? You have to be out there. You have to do a lot of work. And things like podcasting can have a great impact on that. But when it comes to other people sharing your voice and creating alignment, you need to look at ways of doing that. One of the things that I will tell you that is so powerful in the development of your sales success is getting other people talking you up in a way every bit as powerful as you would talk about yourself. And the reason why that is so instrumental in your success, you know, people naturally tend to listen to somebody and hear them talk about themselves, and there's a natural skepticism to it. Of course, they're going to say good things about themselves, but when somebody else, a third party, edifies you and builds you up that way, your standing in the eyes of that prospect is entirely different. So hitting on every cylinder and mastering these things throughout the process can have a huge impact of your success and can help you crush your sales goals, even if you don't sell well yourself. But I'm going to tell you, if you're one of those people and you think that you don't sell well right now, you're in rarefied air. I have spoken to top sales professionals in so many different industries, and side by side, give me a person who masters their processes, understands how to nurture people through the sales process, and then learns and is committed to learning as far as getting better at sales. And that person is going to outperform the other. I've seen great salespeople, people that I would say that were great salespeople from a skill set standpoint, struggle. And the reason is they didn't master the other elements of their business. They thought they were so good at what they did, such a strong communicator, such a strong closer, that they didn't need to do the other steps. And the fact is, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, everybody needs to focus on the development of those other things. Unless you've got so many people that have either worked with you already, know you, or just are in your database that you literally you would fall down and run into new business. Unless you have that, you're going to always need to develop your own client acquisition system and your specific sales process. And it can look a little different by business, by industry, by approach. And that's why understanding those things and how you leverage those things is so powerful. A large part of the work that we do with the sales activist is to help coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs stand out from the crowd and utilize these things the right way to really have the right type of impact that they're looking for. The Impact Sales podcast was created to be a resource for people to get that information in podcast form so they could put it to work for their own benefit. I do these lives each week because I want to continue to share this type of message with the people that are out there trying to professionally sell for themselves and for their business. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you if you're struggling to achieve the right level of sales success. If you haven't mastered those things, it just means you need to refine exactly how those things work for you. I will tell you, if I can be a resource to you in any way, I am happy to help. Just text the word sales to the number 321-421-5213. You can jump on my schedule right there. You can schedule a complimentary consultation. We'll get on a call together. We'll talk about your client acquisition system. We'll talk about your sales process. And we'll talk a little bit about how you feel about yourself as a salesperson. More importantly, we'll come up with a game plan together to help you get on track, to help you crush your goals, even if you can't sell. This is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist. Thanks for joining me and have a great day. Take care.